Okay, so we are going to get started. Today we are going to be discussing the 4 pillars of quick turn real estate. This is a very special content that we're doing today because for me, it took a long time to get these, to realize these 4 things and how to put them together. And when we finish by today, hopefully you will have a good idea of how to create some generational wealth that may have given you some new ideas. I know it was new for us when we started on it. And it's been a great journey so far. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you check in, even if you check in late, just say hi so I know who's in here and we can get going and get everything going. So, 4 pillars of quick turn success. How to make generational wealth and beyond with quick turn real estate. So for those of you that don't know, quick turn real estate is a strategy. It is a strategy based on what a lot of people do. It's a strategy. Everybody knows about buying and selling real estate. Hey, Dawn, nice to see you. Glad you're here. So it's a strategy based on buying and selling real estate. The simplest terms, because I want to go slow for some of the newcomers that are not familiar with a lot of real estate terms. Don't want to go too fast. The easiest way to explain this is that you are buying a property and you're buying it for less than it's worth right now. So you're buying it under what's called under market value. And then you're going to sell that property at market value. You're not going to fix it up. You're not going to put a lot of money into it doing renovations. And to be honest with you, a lot of times these properties don't need a lot of renovation and a lot of work. So it's not a lot that you have to do. I'm going to break down the 4 parts that you have to do to accomplish this. And then hopefully after that, I'm going to talk about the generational wealth that you can create with this. And it's a pretty straightforward process. It's a lot different from what most investors do. So let's get into it. So the first thing is there are 4 pieces of a successful quick turn model. 4 pieces that you have to look at. The first piece, or pillar as I like to call it, is figuring out where and who is your target audience. Most investors do not do this at all. They do stuff by chance. So they'll say, I'm going to look for a deal wherever there's a deal at. I'm going to buy property wherever I can see making a profit. This especially happens if you've ever talked to someone that talks about doing virtual wholesaling. They buy property all over the country. They don't care where it's at as long as they can see a profit and that kind of thing. And you can do that, but the thing about real estate that nobody talks about, and it frustrated me when I started because nobody would talk about this, is what happens. What do you need to replace an income? What do you need to live off of real estate? Doing a $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 check is great. But at the same time, it's great in relation to what you actually want to do. So let's talk about this. Let's say I tell you every time you do a real estate deal, you're going to make $40,000. Now, that could be great or that could be horrible. Hey, Gerald, nice to see you. So that could be great or that could be horrible. For example, it could be great if I told you you're going to buy a house and sell a house every single month. So that means you're going to make $30,000, $40,000 every single month of the year. That's a great income. So that sounds great. But if I told you you were only going to buy a house twice a year and sell a house twice a year, that would be about $80,000 in income. And while that's not horrible, that's not the same as $40,000, $50,000 a month. Same way if you only did one house a year and you made $40,000. That's not a great cash flow for you. So it's relative. And most investors never look at it as how to build consistency into their business. How can they consistently buy and sell real estate so that every month they know they have money coming in? Because if you don't have money coming, what's the only thing worse than not having money come in consistently every month is not having any idea when money will come in. So if you buy a property, you don't know when it's going to actually close, and you don't know when you're going to sell it. You don't know when you're going to get another property. You can't live like that, because if you get $80,000 this month and then you don't see another check for 6 months, you're going to struggle because you didn't know how much to hold, how much to save, how much to put up. So you need to get consistency with your business. So that's the first thing. The first way is this is a process to create consistency in a real estate business. And that's something that most investors, most people look at and they lack. So pillar 1 is figuring out where and who is your target audience. So you're going to use data to figure out where your most profitable deals will come from. No more driving for dollars. So if you're an investor, if you looked at wholesaling and you've done driving for dollars, or you've put up bandit signs, or you've done any of those things that are meant to try to get you some deals, you're not going to do those things, because they do bring deals, but they bring no consistency. And the one thing we need to build into our business is consistency. So we're going to use data to figure out where our most profitable deals come from. And what I mean by data is you're going to let numbers tell you where you should be marketing, where you should be finding deals, and then use that information to get people calling in from those areas saying, hey, I want to sell my house. And then you're going to make decisions on what to buy from those people that call. But the beautiful part of it is everyone that calls you doing it this way they have all the base requirements for a good deal. So it's just a matter of you picking out the best deal for you, if that makes sense. So that's the biggest thing. You're going to figure out who is your target audience. You're going to use data to reach out to them directly. You don't want to do a shotgun approach and just have anybody and everybody who says they want to sell their house calling you, because it's not going to be profitable for you and it's not consistent. The other thing is you're going to market to your target customer. We're going to spend money on marketing, and you're going to spend money for consistency. That's the biggest thing with this. Consistency and speed matter more than cost. If I told you for every dollar you spend in marketing, I'll pay you $10, how many dollars would you come up with? The answer should be as many as you can, because you know you're going to get $10 for every dollar you're investing. So while people would say, well, I don't want to spend money on marketing, I don't want to lose money, you won't lose money if you invest the right way and go at the right things. So does this make sense to everybody? Give me make sense if you understand what I'm saying so far about the consistency being important, because it's very important that you get that part of the business, the consistency. Now, the other thing about consistency is the process. You're going to process the people that raise their hand to discover motivation. You can use data to figure out where you should be marketing, if that makes sense. You can use data to figure that out. But at the same time, the second part so let's look at it this way. Let's say there are 100 real estate investors. And of those 100 real estate investors, 50 of them don't even go out and try to talk to sellers directly. 50 of them just go through a realtor and try to find deals. So you're going to beat out those 50 just following this process. Of those 50, only 25% of them do paid marketing. They actually market, because those 25 that don't do it, they put out bandit signs, they go knock on doors, they drive for dollars. They don't have any consistency in their business. Okay, so that's 25 that you're dealing with out of 100. Now, of those 25, here's where another 15 of those people fail. They don't process the people that call them and say they want to sell their house. People don't like to talk to people on the phone. They're scared, they're nervous, they're not sure what to say. That's why you need a script, a process, follow the words and just follow what it says, and you will make sense of this call, because you can do everybody the same way. The same way you want consistency in your business, you have to be consistent in how you process your business. The biggest companies in the world, so you have to process these leads quickly, consistently, and you're going to build rapport with them. When you talk to people, the same way I talk to you guys. I talk to you guys so that I can talk to you and you can get to see how our process works, what we're talking about, and everything else. It builds rapport. You feel like, hey, this is Art. He's talking to me. It makes sense. Now, imagine if someone else came and told you the exact same thing, but it was kind of a wham, bam, thank you. They don't try to teach you. They don't try to educate you. They just said, hey, this is what you need to do. And you wouldn't listen to them because they don't have any rapport with you. You're going to build rapport by talking to these sellers and just talking to them in a common sense way, asking them some questions, and processing their leads. That's where 15 of those people, of the 25 that we have left, 15 of them aren't going to even talk to them on the phone. They're going to let them go to voicemail. They're going to call them back when they get a chance to call them back. They're going to miss out. So now you're only competing with about 5 to 10 people about getting a deal. So you're only competing about 5 to 10 people. Now, the thing that's going to beat you out of those 5 to 10 people is your process. So let's get into the second part. The second pillar is negotiating your deal, which is your process. So you're going to go through a process to negotiate with these people. This is where you make your money. Everybody else is focused on the deal. Everybody else is focused on the location. Everybody else is focused on the numbers and everything else. You are going to make your money on negotiation, because the people that are going to come to you have properties that have equity in them. And then at the same time, you're going to talk to them on the phone to discover their motivation. It's what I call motivated equity. I talk about it all the time. Only people that are processed, only people that go through this process, you're only going to talk to people further. So it's a 3-step stage, 3 steps that you're going to go through. You're only going to talk to people or continue to talk to people that make sense for you to make a good profit. And you're going to learn to weed people out. It's a funnel. So imagine 100 people call you from your marketing. Of those 100 people, 50% say that the numbers don't make sense. And then 25 of those people, they don't want to sell right now, which doesn't mean they're not a deal. They're just not a deal right now. And then you've got 25 people that say they want to listen to your offer and everything else. And of those 25, 5 of them take your deal. Now, that sounds like a very low number, but let's look at what you just did. You got 5 great deals to choose from. And you got those because you processed them. You let you let your system do the heavy lifting to process those leads to get down to 5 deals. 5 deals in 1 month, in one batch of calls or one batch of marketing, is a great process. Most investors can't find 5 good deals in a year, let alone in a month. And you're going to be able to do that consistently. Now, you must let sellers figure out for themselves that you are the best option. And what that means is you don't want to tell them this is what I can offer or this is what I'm doing. You want them to come to that arrangement in their head. And that's where the building rapport comes in with them, to understand that, hey, I want to build a rapport, and they trust me. And they feel like after I got off the phone with Art and his team, I feel like they're going to buy my house, or they're going to give me a serious offer. A lot of sellers are scared that people are going to play games with them. They're not used to doing this. They've heard all kinds of horror stories about people buying homes. They just want a no-nonsense way of buying their house. And you're going to give them that by being consistent and doing it the same way every single time. If that makes sense. Now, your negotiation is fast because it doesn't take very long to negotiate, but their process to answer may be slow. So what I mean by that is, just because you make them an offer today does not mean that they're ready to accept that offer today. And that's fine. The important thing is that we made them an offer, if that makes sense. Because what happens is they might say, you know what, I'm going to call this other place, or I'm going to reach out to a realtor. And most people are not very efficient, so they don't follow up the way they should. But you're always following up. I've talked to people that I put in my follow-up process, and it took a year from the day we first talked to them to the day we bought their house. It took a year to buy their house. Do you think I care? Do you think a deal is more valuable to me today than it is a year from now? No, I need money today. I need money next year. I need money consistently. So I don't care. As long as they're in my ecosystem of my buyers or my sellers, and they're always talking to me, I'm going to be that consistent voice that they see through everybody. And they're going to appreciate that. So that negotiation is where your money is actually made. Most investors do not negotiate, so you're not even on the board with them. So you're beating out a majority share of the investors. So all of you people, like if you're in Florida, or if you're I'm thinking of some hot states that have a lot of deals going. If you're in Arizona or Texas, some of those places where the deals are a little bit hotter and there's more competition, you're going to beat out your competition because you're consistent, and that's going to give you an edge. The third thing is financing and due diligence. So here's the thing. Having one financing source for all your deals will save you time, money, and energy and everything else. You don't need 16 different ways to fund a deal. You only need one. And I know people talk about all these creative financing techniques and everything else. Creative financing techniques are great. I've used them for years, but they are not consistent. And so I would rather find one way to consistently buy all of my deals where I don't have to get the seller to do anything weird. I don't have to convince them to take any kind of weird terms. Now, in some cases we do that, but it's rare because most of the time I don't have to go through all of that to make them to find success. I can just buy the property outright. And the thing is, as far as due diligence, now due diligence is done by the bank when you use bank financing. That's actually a good thing because the bank is going to help you make sure that you're not making a bad deal. You're going to do a couple of steps, but they're going to help make sure you don't make a bad deal. And so you're going to appreciate what they help you with. They're going to get the appraisal and everything else and verify the value on the property. If their numbers come way, let's say the seller said the house was worth $200,000 and it's only worth $150,000. Well, then you can go back to your negotiation, and if things don't add up, you go back to the seller. But here, let's look at the difference. Remember when you first talked to that seller and they talked to you and said, hey, I want to sell my house or whatever, and you started talking to them, they didn't know you from anybody else. So they would have called, if you couldn't do the deal, the numbers they wanted, they would have went to somebody else. But at this point, you're in a contract, you're in an agreement, you're ready to buy, and they think that they're about to sell. And then if you come back to them with facts, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you told me it was worth this, it's only worth this. We need to renegotiate this. I can do it this way. Now they're not negotiating with everybody else. They're only negotiating with you because they were expecting you to buy the house. I hope that makes sense to you all, because that's a very different place from fighting with 2 and 3 and 4 other sellers or other buyers about getting that seller. Does that make sense to you? Let me know if that makes sense about you don't have to, when you do need to renegotiate, you're renegotiating on the other side of that agreement because of the fact that they already signed an agreement with you, even though you have to go back, and now you're hitting them with facts. So it comes off less like I'm trying to get you to go down on the price for me, and more like I'm getting you to go down on the price because the facts don't support what you told me over the phone. So that's a really big issue. So what I'm saying, Stacey, I'll repeat it. What I'm saying is you're going to let the bank do the due diligence, or some of the due diligence. I don't want to say all of it. You're going to let the bank do the due diligence. So let's say, for example, a seller tells you their house is worth $200,000. And then you you sign an agreement to buy it at a certain number. And let's say the number is 125. Let's just use that for argument's sake. And you go to the bank and you talk with the seller and they said it was worth 200. You do the appraisal and it's only worth 150. Now you go back, you've already got an agreement with that seller. You're going to go back to that back to that seller and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you told me the property was worth 200,000. That's why we were able to buy it at 125. It's only worth 150. So I can still buy the house, but I can only buy it at this number. And by doing it that way, you're not competing with all these other buyers in the market. Everybody else that sent them marketing, everybody else that they talked to on the phone or came to the house to visit, they've already told them they're under contract and moved those people away. This is a couple of weeks later, and now you're saying you're not coming to them on a negotiation point of, I want to get a lower price. You're coming to them with the attitude of, these are the facts, here's the appraisal, this is showing that it's not worth what you said it was, and so I have to go down on my price because I went based on what you told me. That right there is going to make you tons of money, just because you won't get caught with buying a bad deal because you did due diligence, and at the same time, you are the only one negotiating with that, you're the only one negotiating with that person. They're not talking to 3 other sellers and you're fighting for the best deal. So I hope that makes sense. So finance and due diligence run hand in hand, and they work together. So they actually benefit you to go through one lender and get everything done through one lender. So the 4th pillar is selling the property at a profit. This is one of my favorite parts. It's the second most important part to me. You got to put together a team of pros that will help you sell your properties. You don't have to sell your properties. I'm glad you got it, Stacey. Okay. So you don't have to sell your properties. You can put together a team of pros that will sell your properties. Remember, we're not doing any remodels. We're not dealing with any tenants. We're simply buying and then reselling that property at market value. And because we own it, we don't have to worry about anybody trying to cut us out of the deal. We don't have to worry about anybody trying to mess up the deal or go behind our back to the seller. We own the property. So we're the owner and we're selling it. We are able to do this because we made our profit in the negotiation stage. That's why the negotiation is where this is a different business from what many of you may be used to with real estate. The negotiation is the business. The real estate is just a commodity. This process uses speed, allowing us to do more deals and make more money. Speed in real estate is the name of the game. Speed is where it matters. Speed is where it counts, because the more deals I can get done in the shorter amount of time, The more deals I can put out there to sell, the more money I can make, and I can balloon my income every month because I'm always, it doesn't matter. Let's say you buy 5 deals, like I talked about in the story earlier, and you buy 5 deals in a month. You know, you buy 5 deals in a month, even if you don't sell all 5, let's say you only sell 2 of them this month. You still made, let's say, $30,000 from each deal. So you made $60,000 that month. Next month, you still got 3 left to sell, but you buy 2 or 3 more. Now you got 6, and let's say you sell 4. Now you got 2 left, but on those 4, you made $30,000 a piece or more, and you got 30, 60, 90, $120,000. Do you see the huge cash you're throwing off every month just keeping a portfolio of properties for sale? And it doesn't matter if the market is turning down, it doesn't matter if the market is going up, because you have leverage. If you need to lower the price, you can always lower the price to get it sold. People will, when you have multiple properties, a weird thing happens. You're always getting an offer on something. So something is always selling. Even if it's not everything, even if one of them sits on the market a little bit longer, everything is always selling, and you're focusing on the other deals and getting cash from the other deals while you're waiting for that one that's sitting on the market, and you can always lower the price. So the final step, so now we've done a deal, we've gotten our check, and remember we're focusing on a process of doing this with multiple deals simultaneously every month. We're always buying, we're always selling. The final step is you will have a consistent, repeatable process that will throw off a lot of cash. Now, the thing about throwing off a lot of cash is you pay a lot of taxes, possibly. What we do, and this is what I do in my process, once we meet our needs for the year or for the month or however we're operating our business. So let's say I want to live on $300,000 a year. I want to live on that income. Then what I do is once I've made that amount of money for the year and I pay myself a paycheck from the business, then I can take that excess cash and I can use it to invest in commercial real estate. Now, this is where the generational wealth comes in. I like to buy and hold commercial real estate because you can do something with commercial real estate. You can do it with residential, but it scales much better at commercial real estate. And that is you can roll your money into bigger and bigger commercial deals. So let me give you an example. Let's say you were to buy a small, and I'm not going to get into the types of commercial, but let's say you were to buy a small commercial building at $500,000. You would have put down $50,000 to buy this building. And you buy it for $500,000. So you got a $500,000 piece of property. It's throwing off, let's say, $3,000 a month after all expenses. Let's just say, for example, it's throwing off $3,000 a month. You then increase the rents or you remodel the place or whatever is necessary to be done. And you don't have to do it right away, but you do what's called a value add play. You add value to this property. And commercial is different than residential because when you add value, when you increase the revenue or decrease the expenses, that directly translates into the value of the property. Let's say in 2 years or 3 years, you sell that property, and let's say you sell it for $900,000. Let's be conservative. You sell it for $900,000. So originally you had $500,000. You've paid it down for 2 years, and now you've sold it for $900,000. Out of that $900,000, let's say you walk with $450,000. Let's just say after everything is done, let's say $400,000. You walk with $400,000. You can then, the same way that commercial real estate can be purchased tax deferred. You didn't pay taxes on that $50,000 because if you did it through a 1031 exchange, which just means that you held the money in a separate account and then use that money for investment. Now there are a couple of rules that go into that, but we can talk about that later. But you deferred that money and then you turned around and used that money to go into commercial, a larger commercial. Now you're taking that same $400,000, doing it into a larger commercial, and so now you put $400,000 into let's say it's a $4 million deal or a $5 million deal. So now you got a $5 million piece of property. You use tax deferred money, so you did not pay taxes yet on that money, and now you're getting, let's say, a $10,000 a month cash flow. Now you got a $10,000 a month cash flow after expenses, and then you're going to turn around and do that again in a couple of years. Same play, but you're steadily rolling that money over. In 5 or 10 years, if you wanted to do it, you could easily have a $20 million, $40 million portfolio of commercial property, and you really didn't use any more than the lump sum that you started with, and you steadily invested in the building. Or you could take, when you get to a certain point, buy the building cash if you don't want to have a note on it, and then just have all of your cash. You bought that property cash with tax deferred money, and you kept that property. And then at the same time, you live off of that cash flow, but you also have this real estate, the quick term business, steadily generating money as much as you want to keep it up. This is a great thing for people that are looking at retirement, that are looking at switching careers, they're looking for their second act. This is a way to build generational wealth in a relatively short time. And then you can keep building this up until you decide you're ready to stop, when you've made enough money. So, it's just a way of, so Stacey, did you get that? The way you can roll money over with commercial real estate, that's when you make enough money on quick term real estate, you can always take the money and put it into something else. Once you've paid yourself, because you need to live, obviously. Once you've paid yourself enough, you can roll the money into a tax deferred account. It's called a 1031 exchange, and put that money to work buying commercial real estate. And then you basically, instead of paying the taxes on that money, all of that money goes into the commercial property, and it grows from there. You're building a business and a generational wealth. Because when you get older and don't want to run the quick term business, you have an option. You can sell the quick term business. You can let your kids or your family run the quick term business if that's what you want to do. Or you can just shut the quick term business down, because you've got the commercial real estate that's steadily building cash flow for you, and you're steadily paying it down. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful way to build generational wealth. Your kids can easily live off, and they don't have to be real estate gurus. They can live off of the profit that you make when you decide, hey, I'm leaving this business. They can take over that business, or they can just live off the commercial money and have a baseline of income for their life as they start over. And that's a huge thing for your family. So I hope this has made sense for you. If you need help building a strategic quick term real estate business like this, then I'm on Facebook Messenger. Shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger, DM me, and we can have a one-on-one conversation about where you're at and what this process would look like for you, how this would work for you. When we do the call, we typically do what's called a financing audit. And this is where we'll look at where you're at. We'll look at the steps you need to qualify for larger financing to invest into this type of business. It's not as hard as you think. You do need to you can't be at ground zero. You can't be where you have no money, no credit, no nothing. And if you're at that point, I can still give you some resources and some help and some guidance in where you want to go. But as soon as you're in a position where your credit is okay, it doesn't have to be, 850 perfect, but as soon as your credit is okay, as soon as your income is enough, then I can definitely help you with that. And we do what I call, like I said, a financing audit to see where you're at. Even if we can't directly help you, like I said, I have a lot of resources I can share. I want to help anyone in this group grow and learn and build themselves and do better. If you have questions, please ask them in the comments. Put them on the Facebook group. I'll be happy to answer. I hope this has been beneficial. If you've learned something today, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you like this content, or if you want me to switch it up, or you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Excuse my language, but you don't know what I'm talking about and I make no sense. Let me know, because I love putting this kind of content out. I love sharing this information, and I love helping people. So hopefully this has been beneficial for you all. You've learned something. If you want the replay of this, I will be putting out the replay tomorrow, so you can watch this again and then go over all the pieces, and it can make sense for you. And then, like I said, by all means, jump on a call and I'll be happy to discuss your specific situation. So until next time, I wish you all the best. Like I said, ask questions. And as always, happy hunting. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.